On today's episode, Victoria and I talk about threads that connect communities and how the threads that connect those communities spread right across the Sunshine Coast hinterland and make it incredibly attractive to other people who want to move here and find a place where they feel that they can be part of a really vibrant community, somewhere that people are happy to share their stories and are supportive of one another. Stay right to the end. I think you'll like it. And there's a bit of lawnmower noise. Just ignore that. And we have a lot of fun. Please watch. Hello and welcome to Stories from the Red Couch, episode 65. I'm Robin Cook and today my guest is Victoria McGuin. Hi Victoria.
Hi Robin.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
Now, ordinarily, as a journalist, you would be kind of sitting on my side, wouldn't you?
That's true.
And talking to people that you interview and stories that you create for Hinterland Times. Do you often have the opportunity to tell your story?
No, only when I'm having coffee with girlfriends, really, but that's about it. But no, it was quite strange today because I said to someone this morning, I've got to go home and just pack up some things for an interview. I'm being interviewed. And they said, you're being interviewed? I said, I know. Makes a change, doesn't it? Me.
Yeah.
But so it's a bit strange.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Yeah. So, and have you always been, is this something that you've done? Because you've got some books and we'll talk about those in a minute, and they don't look like journalism books.
Because I don't think of myself as a journalist. I think of myself as a writer.
Okay.
Because I've never gone, I know lots of journalists and many of them are very lovely people.
Yeah.
But for me, journalism attaches itself more to very current news, sometimes gossip, sometimes trying to stir the pot a bit, and not always in a good way.
Yeah.
Whereas I tend to focus on writing about the good things, which I really like to do and always have. What's going on out there that's good.
Yeah, so storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling and telling somebody else's story like I did with you guys. That kind of thing, you know, just because there is so much out there that's negative, and I like to say, no, it's not all bad.
Yeah, which is exactly how we feel, why we do Stories from the Red Couch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're doing this, for the same reason.
To inspire people.
Yeah. And give those smaller voices an opportunity to be heard in that cacophony.
Yeah, that's right.
Of the 24/7 news cycle. It's massive, isn't it?
It is huge.
Yeah.
I try not to switch into it too much because I find it can be quite depressing.
It can be.
Yeah.
Now, you've come here from London? England?
London, yep. A place called Twickenham, that some people know because there's a rugby ground there.
Oh, okay.
But it's sort of on the edge of London. It's a really lovely spot, big, beautiful stretch of the River Thames, lots of nice old pubs, a few old castles and buildings. It's lovely.
And so you went from there to
here,
to Sunshine Coast hinterland.
Yeah, totally different.
How did that work? How did you do that?
Well, my husband is Australian, and we met in London through a mutual friend who'd actually lived with him in Sydney, house shared with him, and then my husband was in London doing some art and working, and she had a birthday and said, come along, and we both came from opposite ends of London, met at this pub, started talking, and bang, just hit it off and talked to each other all night, ignored everybody else, were very rude. And then we just started to go out on dates, and within about 6 months he's turned around to me and said, I need you to know that I have to go back to Australia because I miss the big sky, I miss the light, and I cannot live in England for too much longer because it's so grey and it's depressing me. And I said, okay. He said, so you have to seriously think about whether you can do that.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I thought, I've lived here all my life, and although I've travelled, I've always lived here, and I love it, but why not? Let's just do something different. So I said, okay. That was it.
That's fantastic.
And we didn't go straight away. We stayed. We had 2 children, and then we decided when they were very young, we needed to get here because Damien's parents were both kind of needing to see them and have time with them.
Of course.
So we moved to Caloundra. So I stepped off a plane and went straight into this beautiful apartment in Kings Beach, looking out at the ocean from my little I was in a studio flat, and then I was in this tiny flat as well with a shared garden, and then I went to this massive place looking out at the ocean. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it really is a big sky, isn't it?
It was huge. And after a few months there, we started driving up here to Chevalham and Palmwoods to look for somewhere to live. And every time we drove off the highway here, as we came into Chevalham, my whole body would just go, I'm home. So that's why I knew this is it. This is where I want to be. And I just sort of fell in love with Palmwoods. I love all the things about it, all the community things. I love the fact that you go out to the skate park and there are people playing tennis, and there's people doing cricket here. There's the kids in the skate park who are generally really nice. Despite, some people go, they're lovely, most of them. And then people swimming, and there's stuff going on all around you. And then there's stuff going on down at the hall, and then there's the lane, and Homegrown, all those places. And it was just, I thought this is great. And then Montville's beautiful, because that's quite close to us too, and Mullaney, and there's just constant beautiful little villages all along.
You must have you're the editor of the Hinterland Times.
I am. Yes.
How cool is that?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
So in that kind of capacity, and coming from somewhere completely different to here, what sort of things do you notice about our communities that really stand out in a way that talks to the cohesiveness and the support that we have here?
I think through working with the paper, the sense I get whenever I meet people or go anywhere is, although it's a huge area, there does seem to be this thread running through it of people connecting. And you can be in Mullaney and there'll be people there who know people in Mapleton or Palmers or Nambour. Oh yes, that family, or oh yeah, the pineapple farmers, or that, there's all these lovely threads of people who know each other that I think is the deepness of the area. And then other people come on top of that and add to that, and it just becomes this rich tapestry. It's kind of hard to explain, but it feels like there was already something very special here, but more and more people are coming who see that and are building it too.
So they're being attracted by that in the first place.
Yeah, that like attracts like.
Really, really seeking that out.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that necessarily in a big city.
No, you don't. It's very hard. You might get it in a couple of streets, but you don't get it in a big city.
Yeah.
And even where I lived in London, I wasn't in the city. I was in sort of a suburb almost, sort of Twickenham, that area. You know people in a few of the shops because you've grown up there, and you see people in the street every now and then, but it's not the same as here. Whereas, here I get a letter delivered to me at the post office, and all it says, and this is up at Montville, Anne says to me, "Oh, Victoria, I've got some post for you," and it just says, "Victoria McGuin, care of Post Office, Montville." That's it. And it reached me, and it's just like, that's so lovely.
It is lovely, isn't it?
You can go to the baker's, if you've forgotten your purse, they'll go, "That's okay, do it next time."
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
You don't get that in a big city.
No.
Yeah.
How did you end up being the editor of the paper?
Well, I arrived, and I'd been here for about 6 months, and I had sort of baby brain, and I was thinking, I need to be doing something else. I love being a mum, but I need something else.
Yeah.
And I was sitting up in Montville because one of my children was already up at school on the range. And I was sitting up there having a coffee by myself, and I thought, which paper do I like to read when I'm sitting around having a coffee? It's the Hinterland Times. I'm going to see if they've got any jobs. So I just phoned up Michelle and Heatley, who were the owners then, and said, "Oh, I used to do writing on and off in London. I've got a blog. Do you ever need anyone to do some freelance work for you?" So Michelle had a look at my blog and then said, "I'll come and meet you for coffee." We met for a coffee, and she said, "Yeah, all right, we'll see how it goes." And she sent me this load of jumbled up emails all about a goat house somewhere up on the range and said, "Turn it into a story." So I did. And then she said, "Great, now go and find someone and write a story about them." So I did. And this carried on for a couple of months, and it just built and built. And then I was doing 1 or 2 stories a month. And then shortly after that, I started, because I'm a bit funny about my punctuation and grammar and things. I had an English teacher mother, so I'm
meticulous.
Yeah. So I'd be saying about things in the paper, and so I ended up becoming the proofreader and sub-editor of the paper.
Yeah.
And that was it. And so that became like my constant, regular gig for 4 years, I'd say, 4.5 years. And then Michelle one day said, "How would you like to be the editor of the Hinterland Times?" I said,
"Sure."
"Oh, okay." Well, my hairs went up when she said it. All the hairs went up on my body, and I went,
nice.
"Okay." And she said, I think you should do it, because she said you know the paper back to front, you know lots of the community, and you love it, so why not?" And she helped me. The first few months she was in the background when I was going, what do I do now?
So what is involved? What do you do when you're the editor?
Well, you obviously, sometimes you can write features, but if you don't, which I like to do, but I don't always have time now, which is sometimes a shame. But you choose the features, and the writers come to you with their ideas. You say, "Yep, great, go for it." Then you have to get in touch with all the community groups, make sure that you know what's going on each month. You've almost got a checklist each month of what events are going on around all the towns.
Okay.
And you just get in touch with everyone and say, "Is it happening this month? Do you want to share some information about it? Do you have high resolution photographs?" and it's just, a lot of it's chasing, actually.
Yeah,
A lot of it is chasing, and sometimes it can get stressful because you're getting a deadline.
And deadlines,
People aren't getting things back to you, and you think, but it always comes in. And Karen, who's my right hand, or I'm her left, whatever, she does the advertising. She and I always get towards the end of the month, and we always say to each other, "It's okay. We always do it. We always feel like this, but we always do it. It's okay."
God.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah.
We love it.
And is that how you've always lived your life? Because I get an idea and I think, I might like to do that, and off I go and do it. Is that something that's been in your experience too?
Yeah, I do that, but I've found that I've kind of had lots of happy accidents, in a way.
Tell me about them.
Well, because when I was younger, growing up, I always liked writing and enjoyed all that, but I really thought first of all, I was going to be a dancer, and then I was too tall to be a dancer, and then I was going to do music because I played violin and other things, but I thought, I'm not good enough. I'm okay if I can do a bit, but I'm not really that good. And then I thought, I'll do drama. I like drama, so I stuck with that for a while, and then I was meant to go to university, but I didn't do so well at my A levels because I was at that age where I went to everything. And so I took a year out and said, I'm not going to university. I took a year out, and I ended up working in a coffee shop. And while I was there, this man used to come in the coffee shop, very funny, really entertaining guy. And we'd have these long conversations with him and his friend. And then one day he came in and said, "Vix, how would you like to help me start a newspaper called The Big Issue?" And I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "It's going to be
The Big Issue."
He said, "It's going to be sold by the homeless, and they keep some of the money." And I said, "Oh, right." And he said, "It's come from Anita and Gordon Roddick, who run the Body Shop."
Yes.
Gordon came up with the idea. He saw something in America and he wants to bring it over to London. Do you want to help me? I said, "Yeah, okay." Hung up my coffee apron, and off I went. And we started it. There was a little office, 4 of us, and we began The Big Issue.
Great story.
Yeah, so that was a happy accident.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and then after I'd been doing that for a year or so, I decided, I think I'm going to go back to university now. This is too much, hard work.
Hard work?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I went to uni and did drama and theatre studies, and then I came out of there, and again, little things would happen. I'd get an acting job, and it would be really good pay, and I'd think, yes, and then I'd have nothing for months and months, and it was just so annoying.
Heartbreaking,
and it just goes like that all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're working with really big names as well. I was once in a film where I had the tiniest part, but I was sitting on a bed next to Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, how weird is this? We're the same age pretty much, and we look quite similar, but our paths are so different. But it was funny. It was a funny moment.
Yeah.
But I just kind of would plug away at that. And when I wasn't doing that, like all actors, I'd be doing any old jobs, from stuffing potpourri to working in an office, and then I ended up selling diamonds in the Ritz.
Wow.
Which was great. because I met some really interesting people, and I could write a book about that place, but I'm not allowed to because you have to sign a waiver, you know, when you join. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, because you meet, you know, Russian counts, politicians, actors, all sorts coming through those doors.
Yes.
And you hear all the stories from the hotel, and some of it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it was an adventure, and so that was another happy accident. But I had a great time there. Yeah, I loved it.
And so, tell me about some of the books. And there's a lawn mower happening across the road.
How rude!
I know. I should have mentioned it to them. Maybe they'll go down the back soon. So I hope it's not too disturbing. Tell me about what you've brought.
Oh, I just brought a few things because they were just various books that connected to things from my life. I first of all found this today, which was my little book of stories from when I was
I love that.
a little girl.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's very quite neat. I wonder how old I was. I'd like to show it to my kids and say, look how neat Mummy's writing is. But it was very, some of them are very strange.
Oh, well, there's kissing and cuddling.
Kissing and cuddling.
Yes.
And then there's a story about Fred the Frog, which actually is about me making a grave for him with a lovely box of beautiful flowers and ferns and leaves. And I put talcum powder in the bottom to make it smell nice for the dead frog. You know, and there's all these little stories in there.
I think you've got some in-depth.
I know. I've got to think about
issues
frogs
there.
But yeah, there's lots of death in this. But anyway, that was my first foray into storytelling.
So there's really a thread coming through there, isn't it?
And my mother, her name was Chris, and she used to write short stories. This is you can tell this is from a certain era from looking at the cover.
So is this her book?
No, she's written in it. This was in 1982, and she wrote a story called School Play.
Yes.
So she used to write lots of short stories, so she was a writer. So that was kind of a common thread. My uncle writes poetry.
Okay.
So it's kind of in the family.
Yeah, it's in the family.
And we all love it. And then along the way, I dabble with other things. Like I brought these because this made me laugh. I think, I'll try a bit of feng shui. I'll try a bit of Reiki. I'll do something else. I'll see where life takes me. And I tried everything, but I would always come back to punctuation. It's true.
Yeah.
And my friends here all laugh and joke with me because when they write me text messages, if they put something wrong, they quickly asterisk it and put the right word. But it's a nice joke, you know. So that's fun.
Yeah, so that's nice. I mean, you can kind of go through your life, don't you, doing all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And then you're coming back to something that is comfortable.
Yeah.
It's in your family.
Yeah. And it took me a really long time to work that out. But I'm happy that it took me a long time because I got to experience so much and experiment and meet so many weird and wonderful people. So yeah, but it was when I was looking at these books for you today, and I was thinking, oh gosh, it's when you do that you really work out, oh yeah, that's where I was supposed to be in the first place.
That's right. Now you've also brought a photo
from my acting days, my early acting days.
And I rather like this because it's got an actor in it that we rather like.
Apart from me, you mean?
Apart from you, Victoria.
It's all right.
Yeah, and so that's a very young Martin Freeman.
It is, yeah.
That's amazing. So tell me about the play that you were, because you're just looking very serious.
Yeah, I played Miss Amelia Evans from the Deep South, and she was a tough cookie. And I learnt my accent from her by listening to Lucy Ewing. Do you remember the Ewings from Dallas?
Yeah.
I would listen to Lucy Ewing for hours to get that accent to become Miss Amelia Evans. And Martin was my love interest in the play. But we were good friends for years.
Yeah.
And this is Giles, who was also in the play as well.
Yes.
And and then obviously now Martin's gone on and had a stellar career and is having a stellar career. And it's wonderful to see. But exciting. That was how we all began, really, with a youth theatre group in Teddington.
Yes. So it's lovely to bring all of those elements together in that storytelling capacity. So it kind of comes back to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
When you've had experiences and
I think so.
And you are actually experienced in storytelling through acting and
but
music.
I think also through working, because I've had so many different jobs, which I've liked. I find that really useful when I meet people because I can quite often understand
Yes.
what they're talking about or where they're coming from, because
Yes.
I've done really quite hard stuff and quite menial stuff,
Yep.
and then I've also done things that are really challenging, and then I've also done the office work, and I've been out, it's like, yes, I can relate a little bit, not fully, but a little bit, to a lot of people's
Sure.
sort of backgrounds in some sense.
Yeah.
But not farmers, because I've never did farming.
But you do like to eat their food.
I do love to eat their food.
Yeah. And it's an amazing place for food
Yeah,
here
it
on the
is.
Sunshine
Oh
Coast,
God,
isn't it?
yeah, amazing. So yeah, that's really my background, I suppose, and how I got to this place, and now I also have, because I do the Hinterland Times, but I also have my own little business called Word for Word.
Oh, okay.
And with them, I basically do proofreading and sub-editing and writing for people. So that's quite a nice little sideline. Sometimes I have to do things like proofread council documents, which isn't so thrilling, but it's still, it's all part of the big mix.
Of course it is.
So I'm happy.
Yeah. That's good. So, you come here, you make a life for yourself, you find some work, and is that it? You're going to stay, or you're not going?
I'm not planning on going anywhere. And some people say, oh, you should maybe go and work for this magazine or this, or and I just look at them and say, I don't want to. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm living where I want to live. I'm working in a job that I love. I get to meet all these amazing people locally and hear these stories of people's histories and their lives. Why do I want to go and work for a magazine in the city or something? It just, maybe if I was 20 years younger, it might be something I'd like to do. But,
Sure,
but not now.
Yeah.
I really, really love the Hinterland Times and what it's about for me. It's great.
fantastic.
It's a gift.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria.
That's right. I've waffled on. I'm sorry.
No, it's just really nice to hear why people are here, why they live here on the coast, and what you do,
it's
because
a fabulous place.
we've all got our own little stories, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
And you get the very nice job of telling some of them.
I do.
Well done. All right.
Thank you for sharing me on
Yes.
the couch.
It was fabulous.
All right.
Thank you for watching. Watch us next week. We'll be back, and have a great week. We'll see you then. Right through to the end. It's a beautiful story about telling stories, and can't think of what I was going to say.